The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
Okay. Yeah, so we're looking here at the Monero chart. We're going to try and knock out a quick price report today. Obviously, we've had the big fall off this week, and I don't think that that's any accident. We've seen the rest of crypto prices. Actually, crypto prices in general also did fall off this week, but Monero price was falling well before the rest of crypto fell off. And to be quite real about it, crypto had a little drop, not a big drop. Like here's Ethereum on the bottom right. That's a 4% drop, 5% drop. Bitcoin had a little bit more of a drop, 5.5%. But if we go over here to Monero, you can see that we had like a 30% drop off. So, there's a lot to be said about this, and I'm going to try and keep it short here today. Try not to be long-winded, but guys, just like we talked about last week, we said, hey, it would be naive of us to think that all of these things weren't related, right? The shutdown of Trade Ogre, the price falling, the cubic attack that they're trying to pull. And we had listed a few other things as well. I don't remember exactly what they were at this exact moment, but the point is, I think everyone is now extremely aware that this is in fact coordinated. And what I really want to present to you today on the price report is the notion of how Cubic is trying to fund what they're doing, and how that relates to the price, and how that relates to exchange shutdowns. All of these things that we've seen. In fact, just to get a point of reference, let me go to my Twitter and I can just pull up the post that I made. Not that I should be reading you guys my posts on the show, but all right, let me scroll down here. Damn it, I've been posting too much. I can't even find it. Okay. So we have Trade Ogre disappearing, right? This price hit while the rest of crypto is basically positive. All the exchanges have closed their withdrawals except for Kraken. There's a few exchanges still up. The instant swap exchanges like Exolix.com. They're still running. And I think Swappas, and there was one more, I can't remember. Anyways, but most of them have all shut down, especially MEXC, which is the new Binance. I just assume that they're the same guys. We've seen this bot army show up the past few months, right? There's this reorg scare. And all of this is happening right as alt season is just beginning. So what we have to understand here is we're going to take a little step back in time to 2021, and what we saw with the exchange shutdowns and the price hits against Monero. We basically had our smoking gun when we did the Money run. We had our smoking gun that, yes, these guys were shutting down exchanges withdrawals because they didn't have the Monero. Basically, we just did a run on saying, hey, let's go withdraw our Monero, right? We actually got the attention of the crypto community and said, hey, everybody, these guys are fractional reserve, withdraw your Monero, and we're going to watch as they shut down withdrawals. It'll prove our point. And that's exactly what happened, right? We got the attention of the community. Everyone went and started withdrawing from the exchanges, and they all shut down. But more than that, we saw other instances where crypto would be positive. In fact, very particularly, we saw it in August of 2022, where everything was moving up, including Monero. Monero had this weird flat top as everything else continued to move up. Then about halfway through that, the exchanges all shut down their withdrawals. Monero's price stayed flat topped while everything pumped. And then like a week and a half later, everything crashed because we were still in the bear market at that point. Everything crashed. And then they finally opened up Monero withdrawals again on the back end. And so they had basically sold a bunch of Monero that they didn't have and then they didn't have anything left. And so they had to shut down their withdrawals, but they did that to hit the price to keep people out of Monero while they pumped the rest of the crypto market. This is, we could look at it from many angles, right? We can use the deep state angle. We often do here, but the primary angle that you can look at is, hey, these guys are just shitcoin exchanges. They print shitcoins for nothing, for free. And they want you to buy the thing they printed for free, right? They want you to buy their shitcoins, not Monero. They didn't get Monero for free. Okay, so moving on. We know that they do this, right? They have a history of doing this. They've done this for the past 4 years. We proved it. It's unequivocal. A lot of people are like, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. No, bro. We looked under every rock, right? We looked at the alleged volume of these exchanges, to the order book, Those kinds of ratios. We looked at the borrowing ratio, or sorry, the borrowing fee for Monero as related to other coins. And it was just obvious, right? Every rock we turned over, it was obvious. And that is what culminated into the Monero run, or the Money run, to actually prove our point that, yes, they were fractional. And all these other coins that cry about being fractional, none of them have done the things that we did, right? They just say that as a way of like sort of trying to be cool like us or whatever. Okay, so we know they have a history of doing this. How did Binance and others cover their shortfall into their delistings recently? Well, when the first delistings got underway in May of 2021, the NiceHash also shut down their Monero withdrawals at the same time. And NiceHash at the moment,
Wow, fucking NiceHash? That's so weird.
they comprise like 10% of the mining at that time. And then what we discovered, Howard Chu showed us that Bitmain had made this XMR miner that came online about that same time. It was right around that same time, ish in terms of months. And that was a very unprofitable miner. They were trying to sell it, and maybe someone bought it, I guess. But all the math on that was like, wow, this is really not a profitable miner. So how did the exchanges make up their shortfall? With mining. And that ties, maybe starting to see how that sort of is tying back into where we're at right now. They were able to delist Monero. They were able to meet their withdrawals slowly over time with mining. By supplementing what they didn't have with mining, and they probably paid a premium for it on the basis of how unprofitable that Bitmain miner really was. So it means that they're willing to pay a premium to make up the difference on the back end, to sell Monero that they don't have to suppress the price. It's not even a question of did they do that, it's a question of why. And again, I come back to, it's probably almost certainly because they have thousands of shitcoins that they printed from nothing, and they want you to buy those shitcoins. They don't want you to buy Monero. So yeah, that's basically, that without even being conspiratorial and the deep state stuff, we could just say, hey, they have a financial incentive to do this, to sell fake XMR, to shut down withdrawals. So these cubing mining antics cost them money, right? The things that they're doing cost them money. They spend all this time trying to find blocks that they're, trying to reorg the chain, and then failing, and then trying again. And if they just acted normally, if they just acted like an honest miner, they would make more money. So they're spending money to do this, and moreover, their token is worth significantly more. Like when the token that you receive, if you give them hash power, the token you receive is worth significantly more than what you would get just by mining Monero. Even though they're acting in a mining sense, they're acting against their own best interest. So how do they have this token, this shitcoin token? How do they have this high price token that they can pay you like twice as much as what you would earn on, by mining Monero? It's because the exchange complex everywhere, Binance, they all fucking list this token, and they can pump this token. They can artificially prop up the price of this token to subsidize mining to go into the Monero network so that they can create the story. They can push the bot army onto Twitter, and they can hit the price as much as they can from every angle possible. They're trying to suppress our price because we are at the verge of another alt season. It's going to be a more tame alt season than it has been in the past, but we are in a bull market, right? And so they want to keep Monero's price suppressed while they sell you the shit coins that they printed for free. So I know hopefully that sort of comes together like Charlie Day with his wall of crazy lines in the background. I just need to get my hairdo a little bit more, crazy, but that's what's going on, guys. Like I know that like a lot of that, there's a lot of dots to connect there, but I'm telling you, that's what's happening. Just on the basis of all the things that we've seen over the years, in terms of in terms of the things that we know they're doing. And then speculating now on the things that we're seeing them do again. It's the same playbook, right? And it's not surprising. We had to understand that the next bull market they were going to price attack us, right? The first time it was really simple. They could just naked short Monero by selling people Monero that they didn't have, and and then that basically hits the price. And by the time that we realize what's going on, bull market's over, right? Or mostly over. And so they had to come up with more creative means this time. And of course, right, it's the mining ecosystem. If you don't have any Monero, how are you going to get it? You're going to have to mine it. And they're willing to pay extra on the back end for mining it. Or this is a clever little scheme they did with the cubic token, to pump the price of the cubic token to incentivize hash rate so that they can, again, short sell Monero, make up the difference by paying extra for it on the back end while they sell their shitcoins at a much higher price. So whew, that's a lot. That's a lot, right? Okay, but let's get into some TA. Let's get into other price action stuff. Right now, Monero, in terms of just the straight up TA, is sitting at a place that we would expect this to be support. Most of the exchanges are shut down, as we said. Let's go over here. You can even see that Qcoin is currently diverged significantly to the downside. Earlier this week, they had another major volume divergence to the downside. And this is exactly the kind of shit that we saw back in 2021 and 2022 when exchanges shut down withdrawals because they didn't have the Monero that they say that they do. Same thing with MEXC, right? You can see here MEXC earlier this week also did the same thing. This is the signatures that Binance gave us in 2021 and 2022. Let's turn off the volume adjustment, and you can just see the absolute amount that they are diverging their prices down, right? So you can see Qcoin here is down minus 1.5%. MEXC also goes down to minus 1.5% from time to time. It's not nearly as severe as it was back in the day, back a few years ago. You know, we were seeing back in May of 2021, Binance diverged their prices down like 25% at a maximum divergence. I think they actually pay a little bit of attention to us, and I think they know that we're watching them. And so I think that they try to not look too bad because they know that's a bad look for them. You know, they can get away with it once, and then they have to clean up their act because we sort of exposed them. But they still, you know, they can still do some of this price divergence. So part of what's happening here with this price is them hitting, you know, using these price divergences and so naked selling Monero. You know, a lot of this is not organic. Part of it could, again, we also have the other simple fact that, hey, Trade Ogre disappeared, and because Monero's private, we don't know if those guys are selling off their price or not, or selling off their XMR or not. And then we also had that hacker, right? When things broke out here, we have a hacker, and we don't know if he's just, you know, chain hopping. Right, maybe he's smart enough to keep his coin, gain some extra anonymity set, maybe do some random churning, not you know, and only a little bit, right? You don't churn. You just occasionally do a random churn, consolidate all those little outputs that could all be potentially poisoned, and you consolidate them into one output, and then, you know, now you have a lower probability of being detected. Anyways, yeah, so they might just be chain hopping, right? There's a few things here that could be the case, but a significant part of this is an intentional price hit on the basis of naked short selling on exchanges that don't have any Monero.
And if we're being real, they definitely don't want something like that to happen again, where some hacker has millions and millions of dollars of BTC suddenly tries to dump it all in the Monero and the price skyrockets, which gets everyone's interest. And, you know, they could do that by doing something like this and then like spreading this FUD, putting fear and uncertainty into the network might dissuade someone from doing something like that in the future.
Yeah. That's another good point. It's well timed. If they were, you know, we had this big spike up, and they might have said, hey, whoa, you know, we don't want Monero spiking. This is a bull market. We need our coins to spike. So let's make sure and cap this. So yeah, I mean, we really are fighting some pretty nefarious pieces of shit, guys. Like, these guys are absolute like scumbag to the point of basically being evil. You know, kidding, evil in the way that they go about just conducting themselves. Anyways, from a TA standpoint, you would actually say that, you know, this is a spot to pick up some Monero, right? If you missed the breakout here, this is kind of your second opportunity, because they're going to have to pay this back, and our price is going to come back up at some point. It might be in the bear market. Maybe there's a long game that has to be played there, but you really do want to be picking up Monero down here. This is a cheap place to get it. And oh, guess what? You could just, instead of you could go mine Monero, right? Not on your computer, go buy hash rate, right? If you want to convert some of your coins, some of your shitcoin gains or whatever, go buy hash rate, right? And then now you have Monero. You can buy a significant amount of hash rate for short time frames, and I mean, you don't get your full amount there, but you are supporting the network, and it is one way to get into Monero, especially if the exchanges are shut down, right? Although Kraken's still open. Okay,
Kraken's the only good one.
Yeah, seriously, they're the only ones that have not shut down withdrawals like for long periods of time. Okay, Monero BTC, we talked about, hey, we need, it's almost certain that we have to get to this area right here. Let me change the color on this. I'm on purple. There we go. Yeah, almost certain. Like I said, we were going to have to touch this orange line down there. This is just not a surprise in the slightest. But this is actually a good place to hope for a rebound. So if you're a short-term trader, you could flip some BTC into Monero here and have a reasonable hope that you could get some sort of rebound here. Although, again, we are facing like fundamentally nefarious headwinds. So that just know that like a lot of stuff is in the air, and TA is not going to necessarily be.
Yeah, weren't you just saying last week that doing TA with Monero is just largely pointless? And we're seeing this play out right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly that it's pointless. It's just that you have to adjust.
It's unreliable.
TA always has to be interpreted in terms of the fundamentals and the dynamics of the chart you're looking at. Because, in some cases, a TA that you would say is bullish could actually be bearish if you understand the chart that you're looking at. Like, for example, the stock market is just like the stock market just goes up, and it has moments where it crashes, but it almost always goes up. So you have to bias your interpretation to the upside, which sounds like a lot of bullshit. I understand when people would say that. All right, let's look at the hash rate really quick with Monero. This is the difficulty, the average daily difficulty. So it is going up. It does look like, there probably are chads here in Monero that are stepping up. We have hit 700 gigas now at a few points, and that's good, right? We need to continue doing that. Getting all the hardware mining on Monero, and then buying the hash rate when we need to. Let's see. Okay, so let's pivot here to crypto, to Bitcoin. We can look at the Z-scores really quick. Obviously, Monero is down here. We're lower than FTT. Can you, this is how scummy, scammy, fraudulent this industry is. And in bull markets is the place that it really starts pissing me off, and I really start getting vocal about it. It's the market is just fraudulent, right? It's one cesspool of fraud, and Bitcoin is involved in all of it. And it's just, it's insane. But all right, so Link is currently performing well. That's actually a good sign that there's more bull market to come, because when Link pumps, for whatever reason, it tends to pump a little bit earlier. It tends to pump a little bit more. So I would say that's a sign that, yes, we do have more gains coming. Although we talked about Bitcoin did have a little bit of a pullback this week. But hey, here's where TA is actually starting to work out in our favor a little bit. Check out these purple lines, right? The top of that purple line, this is actually a spot I would say, hey, that is a spot of resistance. In this case, I might have wanted to hope to get up here to these purple bands, but that's fine. Honestly, like, the more that you have progressive price action towards the upside, the faster that these purple lines are gonna curl towards the upside, and they're kind of an acceleration metric. That would be a sort of colloquial way of putting it, but these bands will start to curl up, and it sort of gives you this channel to ride in, and then hypothetically, Bitcoin eventually could make it into this channel and do something, something like that. That's not going to happen as fast as all that, but just kind of giving you an idea of what to expect. Actually, let's go to the daily so that it becomes a little.
And remember, guys, we are not in alt season until Litecoin hits 140.
I wouldn't expect your Litecoin to do shit, guys. Don't expect Litecoin to do shit. They're old news. They're old hat. They don't matter, and they have a little bit of privacy now. So, like, who wants Litecoin now? Not the cabal. Yeah, it's too old. Litecoin is too old. It still is used. People use it for stuff because it's popular for that. But I mean,
in terms of actually purchasing stuff, I'd say it's my second most used behind Monero, because if I can't use Monero, it's usually swapping to Litecoin. So
it is used. It's just that the cabal, they've probably milked that coin for about as much as they can milk it. I mean, it's an altcoin. It needs to go up with everything else. Charlie Lee still has some bags. I'm sure he's got to get paid. But they've got the newer stuff, right? They want the newer stuff to extract more, typically. Probably Sol, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, let's take a look here at Bitcoin on the daily. So we're seeing here purple bands, right? We're looking at this purple channel. At some point, you're going to expect Bitcoin to get into this channel, into these purple bands, and this will be somewhere near the top. I'm not saying at that moment. I'm just saying that expect these purple bands to do a pretty good job of top calling for us, and that should coincide with the regression boundary analysis, which currently sits at probably about 190 or 180,000. Ultimately, by the end of the year, that'll be about 200,000. Okay, so yeah, I mean, again, we're in a bull market. This pullback here of this week for Bitcoin was no big deal. It's just ordinary action. Nothing to be concerned about. Let's look at the dominance, because again, like I said, we really are going into an alt season. Again, it will be more tame than last time. It will probably go down slower than what we saw here, right, on the last bull market. That's extreme. This thing maybe will just sort of meander on down more like that, but do expect that alts are going to outperform Bitcoin moderately as time comes, particularly Ethereum, right? I'm really expecting Ethereum to actually, this ETH BTC chart should come back to a significant degree. It already has. So Ethereum's going to do well, right? Sol's probably going to do well. Tron is going to do well. Notice a theme here: USDT, Tether, right? Tether is the backdoor. We won't get into that. Tether is the extension of United States dollar power in a way to cover bond buying shortfalls. It's a way for them to manipulate the bond market as they see fit. Speaking of bonds, do we have anything with bonds? No, I don't even have the chart pulled up. That's how little bonds matter lately. Is I don't even look at them anymore. And that's a mistake. You need to always be looking at the bonds. They're boring, but you just need to always give them a quick eyeball. Nothing here concerning. Nothing problematic with bonds, right? Okay, moving on. We actually saw stocks made another all-time high, both the NASDAQ and the S&P. A little bit of pullback going into the weekly close, but we did set a new all-time high for both of them. This is unsurprising. Again, macro is stable, right? As long as the macro is stable, expect stocks to continue going up over, over the weeks-long time frame. But oil is, still in that zone where we're kind of like, yeah, it's raised an eyebrow, but it's nothing concerning. As long as we're above $60, everything's fine. And again, even if this chart drops down, expect it to do this, right? Expect it to play like that. They're really, really managing the price of oil. In fact, why don't we go to the weekly and we can do a little bit of on the fly TA here. See this guy right there? See this line? We're going to extend that, and we're going to extend it maybe something like that, right? I don't know. Let's flatten it out some. We'll do that. Yep. And so you can see why people think this is bullshit, and it kind of is. You're sort of eyeball estimating what the what the current trend is, right? The point that I'm trying to get here is you could try and say, hey, we're now going to operate inside of this part of the triangle, and then maybe we'll end up drawing another triangle, right? You'll have to do this, and then it'll break down. I don't know, right? There's still there's still the patterns that we've noticed where we could be going into some macro crash, but it's not now. It's not now. We had the macro crash scare, and then they fucking managed it. They handled it, right? They fucking manhandled that macro crash scare, and then everything came back. So, but the pattern's still there, and it's still problematic. It's just not a problem right now. So don't get out of the market. You must be long. Look into my gold watch here. You must be long the market right now. Okay, so here's the interesting thing. The reverse repos have actually made a new low, coming down further and further. So I guess what it looks to me is that, the institutions, they know. They're like, yeah, this is a bull market. Why the fuck are we going to be sitting here in bonds? Why are we going to sit here and get the Fed funds rate overnight when we can be making, crazy gains on Nvidia or Netflix or what, FANGs, whatever, you name it. So why would they want to do that, right? So they're just like moving money into the stock market and into risk assets. Okay, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? So gold still just trending sideways here. Again, this looks mostly bullish. It looks mostly bullish. It's actually, I kind of would have wanted to see this chart be up here. I really would have wanted to break this top right there. The fact that it hasn't, I mean, it's still a pennant kind of, right? We could still say pennant. We could still say rising wedge, etc. I'm not bullish on gold, but this definitely is sort of a holding pattern. It might be. So again, think of gold like Monero, right? They want to cap it. They don't want to, as the rest of the market is running, they don't want it to run with the market. They want to get people soured on it. And then say, yeah, gold hasn't done anything. Let me just sell my gold and buy stocks. Monero hasn't done anything. It got attacked, but I sell my Monero and buy Tron, buy TRX. They want people, the same thing with gold. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, fuck, I had a point there. There's no point. Whatever. Gold is sideways. I wouldn't expect this to necessarily break out anytime soon. If they can cap this for long enough until the macro problems resume, then maybe they can actually prevent gold from really making a new significant all-time high. We could look at the liquidity too. Look at this. In green is the United States liquidity. So, right, this is M2, and this is the central bank balance sheet plus M2. And I think I have treasuries in here. Not treasuries. I have the U.S. balance sheet as well. Treasury balance sheet. I'm sorry. And so we're including that in the calculation. So anyways, the liquidity is expanding. It makes sense. It's like this chart actually does a weird thing where the stocks will go up. So then this will go up, or this will go up, and then stocks will go up, and they'll just they'll feed off each other. And that's kind of how you know that the bubble is growing, right? Because it's we printed money, so stocks went up. But since stocks went up, now we can print more money. Because now those stocks are more valuable, and so we can take more loans because the economy is booming. So we'll do more loans with printed money, and we'll put that into the companies in the stock market, which makes the value go up. And it's like an infinite loop until it's not anymore. And that's also what they do with Tether in crypto. They actually copied that playbook. Very, very smart on their part. Dixie stable, right? Like we said, don't expect Dixie to do a whole lot. And that's going to be good for markets as long as Dixie just sort of occupies his own, doesn't make any sharp moves. Things should be good there. So, all right, that's the macro. That's Bitcoin. That's crypto. That's Monero. And that's all I got for you guys today.
All right, Bonnie. Thank you as always.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm curious. Obviously, we like to think that the state has some involvement with these price suppression attacks or whatever. How much? I think obviously, as you pointed out, it is in their best interest, regardless of whether this is like some kind of state orchestrated thing or not, for profit. But do you? Maybe this is a retarded question, but I was going to say, do you think there is any ties to the state influencing these things happening because it's in their interest as well to price suppress Monero and to have people lose interest in it?
Yeah, no, 100%. The thing is, the state doesn't want to look like they're attacking Monero, other than regulations, right? Oh, well, we just have to do the AML and KYC. You need to be careful on your exchange and not have, right? But in terms of like, the state doesn't want to outright use state resources, the CIA computers, to attack Monero's hash rate. They want to make it look like Monero failed because of market forces. We didn't do anything. It's just Monero was weak, right? That's what's going on there. So these guys are not acting alone. It's like Binance, CZ was, I believe, part of the, I don't want to call them the deep state apparatus, but you know how we say an asset. A lot of these guys, they're not in the CIA, but they're an asset. They're someone that's managed. They're someone that has a sort of Damocles hanging over their head. And they turn them, right? And they're like, well, you need to do a few things for us. So yes, absolutely. I think that there is some state involvement. It's very covert. It's very back channel. It's very hush hush. It doesn't rise to the level of, top level bureaucrats. They probably have a small team managing that kind of stuff. And again, they use their corporate means. They give them top cover for conducting their crypto industry fraud, because as long as everyone's distracted by shitcoins, they're not using digital freedom money. So I know that's kind of long-winded. I apologize.